If you want to build residential, you want to build multifamily that meets certain affordability targets, we're talking about true workforce housing. If you meet these affordability targets, you can bypass the need to go to public hearing to rezone a property to allow that residential use. So long as the property has an existing commercial or industrial use, you apply under Live Local, demonstrate your unique affordability targets, and it locks in the prescribed rules. You go straight to the construction permit.
What are some of the hot topics in construction and development in Tampa Bay? That's the question we're going to answer today. And I'm joined today by Andrew Island, a civil engineer. Andrew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a site civil practice leader for the Tampa Bay area for Langan Engineering. We're a multidisciplinary company. We do site civil, geotechnical, environmental engineering, as well as survey, landscape architecture, traffic engineering. So we're pretty much your one-stop shop for everything outside the building.
Great. And I'm Hugh Higgins. I'm the St. Petersburg partner at Bachara Construction Law Group. So let's get into it. Andrew, give us an example of an area that is really hot in the Tampa Bay area for construction and development. Over the last 10 or so years, we've seen a rapidly changing skyline in St. Petersburg and in Tampa. But maybe you could shed a little light on a different area that's maybe not so obvious.
So yeah, probably the hottest thing is the historic Langan district. The Rays made a big splash when they pulled out of the deal going on about a year ago. And so question remains, what's going to take shape at the site of the former stadium.
So what would you say are the current goals for the gas plant district?
To create a vibrant mixed-use environment that includes affordable housing, and includes an African-American Heritage Museum to honor the heritage of that historically African-American neighborhood, and to highlight, frankly, some of the wrongs that were done to that community in the lead up to the construction of the stadium and with the construction of the stadium site itself, to fundamentally rework and improve the ecology and the open space function of Booker Creek. You would barely know there's a creek through that site. At the center of almost every proposal and every principle that the city's put out, they want to see a creek that's been ecologically restored, but is also a focal point recreational opportunity.
What can you share with us about Langan's involvement in the design process? Is there anything that can be shared at this point?
The focus has been people who live, work, and play in St. Petersburg, who not only are at the top of their games technically, and being the best of the best in what we do, whether that be civil engineering, whether that be Juan Marker Jensen on the architecture side, Wade Trim, who's more of a public sector engineering consultant. But what we all have in common is offices in St. Pete, and, a long-term commitment to St. Pete as members of the community.
So let's talk a little bit about the St. Petersburg Central Corridor. That's an area that has been rapidly revitalizing and growing. Tell me what's on the horizon for that area.
Yeah, so obviously that's an area that's had a lot of activity, a lot of dynamism for the development of the Edge District, the logical commercial, dining, retail, shops, bars, extension of downtown. And I really can see that continuing, arguably with the Blake team's redevelopment of the YMCA site on First Avenue and US 19. It could be argued that has created enough connectivity that has extended what could be considered the Edge District, or at least that commercial district all the way to US 19. That creates another interesting opportunity with the mass, the critical mass that's been reached in terms of residents and new commercial uses in the Skyway Marina District at the south end of US 19. It's really created a situation where you have the Edge District having essentially reached US 19 to the north, and you have the Skyway Marina District to the south. And so, that redevelopment is just going to continue from both ends and probably meet up in the middle. So, and there's a lot of opportunity because you have a lot of US 19 fronting commercial uses that are very old, a lot of marginal hotel sites or, tire repair, things of these nature. And, it's no longer, given the likely increasing land values, those are no longer the highest and best use. So you're going to start to see these properties turn over.
Are there any new challenges that your industry is facing, either on the cost side, the means and methods of construction, things to consider?
Yeah, all of the above, in a way. Probably the most prominent thing, the thing that's most front of mind, and I'm currently dealing with on almost a lot of projects, is new statewide stormwater rules. So these are the statewide level. This is an act of the Florida legislature changing the DEP rules, and so it applies to you regardless of which of the 5 water management districts you're in. Whether we like it or not, whether we like the implications of it or not, we've developed for the better part of 40 years under a basic set of regulations and rules regarding stormwater. The evidence is continuing to pile up that's not been working. Our waterways seem to continue to degrade despite the fact that we're developing new land according to these rules and redeveloping old land that didn't do anything for stormwater, and redeveloping it with something that does manage stormwater to the old rules, and we're still seeing continued degradation. And those rules went into effect at the end of December. So we're very much in the 6-month window where this is what consultants are dealing with. So what it means is it's going to take a while before the consultant community and the agencies really have the toolkit, so to speak, figured out with how to deal with these new rules. The bottom line is we have to do a lot better job removing nitrogen and phosphorus from stormwater runoff. And there's no one-size-fits-all solution. In fact, the rules are very, very much set up to encourage decentralizing stormwater and using multiple solutions on a site and distributing them to treat smaller areas throughout a site. We were always going to have some sort of underground solution that was already expensive, and we're incrementally adding more cost, again, to achieve more removal of nitrogen and phosphorus, which we really need to do to improve the quality of our waterways.
With the change in the stormwater regulations, what kind of end goals are there and timeline for meeting those goals?
Regulations can't really enforce a timeline, for the outcomes, so to speak, because they're regulating development as it happens, and that's going to be dictated by the pace of development. But the eventual end goal is to stop seeing things like blue-green algae blooms, eutrophication of water bodies, which is just the big fancy word for just overgrowth of vegetation that's fueled by the fact that we continue to dump too many nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, into our waterways. And the source of that nitrogen and phosphorus is, changes in land use and development. By creating a standard where we now have to essentially measure what was running off the site before we touched it and improve that, reduce that loading by developing the site, we should, by inspection, see a steady incremental improvement in our water quality.
Are there any other examples of key legislation or key developments that are really going to impact development in Tampa Bay?
Yeah, for sure. And already are. First thing that comes to my mind is the Live Local Act. So what the Live Local Act did at the state level is it said, if you want to build residential, you want to build multifamily that meets certain affordability targets, and we're talking about true workforce housing. We're not with certain percentages of the average median or the adjusted median income for a community. We're not talking about low income housing. If you meet these affordability targets, you can bypass the need to go to public hearing to rezone a property to allow that residential use. So long as the property has an existing commercial or industrial use, you apply on the Live Local, demonstrate you meet these affordability targets, and it locks in the prescribed rules. So things like height, density, setbacks, these are all now set by the Live Local process, and you bypass a public hearing where you're subjected to an up or down vote of elected officials to get your project approved, and you go straight to the construction permitting.
One of the things that you said, this is limited to commercial district areas?
Commercial and industrial. So any property that has an existing commercial or industrial use, industrial zoning.
So we're not talking about someone buys a residential house, tears it down, and all of a sudden they can build a 5-story.
Correct. To my knowledge, this can't be used to increase density in areas that already have a residential zoning.
Okay. Well, thank you, Andrew, for joining for a good conversation about what's hot in the Tampa Bay construction and development context. If you have any questions regarding a project that's about to start, a project that's in construction, or maybe one that's already been wrapped up, feel free to give us a call. We love to help. And if you have a project that you're thinking about, Andrew at Langan can help you out. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.